Okay, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. You're going to notice that instead of looking at my ugly mug, what I have keyed in on here is the is actually my laptop. And what I'm showing you is, if you didn't see it already, if you go to your Moodle page, what you're going to see is that down the left-hand column here, I actually have your final exam review already posted on here. I will also send out an announcement about that, just in case there are people who, for whatever reason, they can access their email through their phone or whatever, but maybe they can't access Moodle as easily. But I will probably also send this out as an attachment for people who are in that boat. So if you know anybody who might be in that boat, let them know that's what's going to be done. And also, if you have the info and can share it with them, if they can't get it for some reason, that would be good, because again, I'm limited. And I know that even just this past week, I've heard for the first time from some students that I haven't heard from in 4 weeks. And one of the things I want to make a really quick statement about before I go over the exam with you is regarding the grade that you see in Moodle right now. Okay. That grade is probably as accurate as I can make it. But after you do the final exam, I'm going to go back through and look at everything, because the simple fact of the matter is that, for example, you may feel like your grade is lower than it should be. And if you go look through Moodle, what you may find is pulling it down as like attendance. Okay, well, here's the thing. Again, if over the last 4 weeks you haven't contacted me, you haven't turned, you didn't turn in a paper, you didn't turn in a rough draft of a paper, you didn't do the essay assignment, then basically what I'm tasked with doing by the university is giving you a 0 for attendance. Okay. Now, I realize that some people out there have had issues with, accessibility and things like that, which is why I'm going to go back after the fact and check into all those things. But again, it's one of those things where students kind of paint teachers into a corner, when in an online course, part of the attendance is doing the work. And I said this from day one, letting me know if there's a reason that you can't do it. And a lot of students, not just in you guys' class, but in all of my classes, have been very reluctant to kind of reach out and let me know that there's some, extenuating circumstance, or I'm left to conclude that they've just phoned it in and they're not going to do the work. Okay. So again, like, I have to look at all that stuff after the fact. So if you're on Moodle and looking at your grade and you feel like maybe it's low, that could be why. And you also have to remember too, that we still have a final exam to take. And I believe the final exam is worth 25% of the grade. So, again, what that means is, like, if you have a 60 right now and you get, let's say, a 90 on the final exam, you're going to end up with probably like an 80 in the class, something like that. So my point is the numbers haven't all been tabulated yet. So I would just ask, as a personal favor to me, that you not bombard me with emails and things about your grade until I actually turn it in. Because after I turn a grade in, I can still go back and file for a change of grade if I need to do that. Okay. And as you should know, anybody who fails the class, you can basically declare a U, which is unsatisfactory. You can declare a U, and it won't affect your grade point average. You would just have to take the class again. Okay. So again, there are options out there. I'm not saying any of you would want to do that, but I'm just making a point that, all this is brand new to every teacher who's doing this. And so for me to sit here and adhere solely to a number is very difficult for me to do at this point in time. So again, like I said, I would ask that you wait until I turn in a final grade before you email me and question a grade or do whatever, because I'm not even sure yet how I'm going to have to end up handling things. Okay. So on that note, I wanted to make sure I talked about that. I'm going to actually go in to the exam review and show you, if you haven't already seen it, exactly what's going to be on your exam. Final exam day and time, April 30th, 1 to 3. I'm going to post the exam on Moodle. I'll open it 5 minutes early, but it's going to end exactly at 3. Okay. Be sure that you use your time accordingly. The final exam review gives a fairly specific outline about what you can expect to see on the exam. And again, this is one of those things where if you can at all possibly be sure that you are planning ahead to use a computer or be somewhere where there's reliable internet, you want to do that. Because again, you have to remember, if for some reason you don't have reliable internet and you can't take this, I have to give you a 0. It's not me trying to be mean. I have to give you a grade. Okay. That's what I want you guys to understand. I can't just leave things blank and grade you that way. Because what's going to happen then is somebody could have done all the work up to the midterm and had an A and done nothing from the midterm on. And if I don't give them any grades, they end up with an A. Okay. Now that doesn't make sense. And it's not fair to people who are doing the work and not getting A's on it. Okay. So you have to understand that's not me trying to be mean or be selective. I have to give a grade for assignments that are given. Okay. So what that means is if you, for some reason, can't take the final exam, especially if you don't let me know that, you're going to get a 0 on it. Okay. If you have internet that doesn't work and you end up not being able to take it, I mean, I've got to give you a grade. That's the point I'm making. I can't work around that. If you were to let me know ahead of time, okay, I don't have reliable internet, or I can't predict if I will, and you let me know that, maybe there's something I can do to work around that, i.e., maybe I could, have a face-to-face conference with you through like Zoom and ask you questions. But again, if your technology isn't working well enough to where you can access Moodle, I doubt it would work with Zoom, because Zoom even trips up this laptop, and this laptop is like 6 months old. So with that, again, I'm just trying to cover everything with you guys so that there's no uncertainty about what's going on. Okay. So here's the review. And like I said, it's already up there on Moodle. Tentatively, this is what I'm thinking: 35 to 40 multiple choice, true, false, or fill in the blank questions. Basically, everything from the midterm on is fair game. From the 20th century England era outline, that's on that was emailed to you. It's also on Moodle underneath the announcements page. It was what we did the extra credit on. These are the things that I see myself keying in on, but anything on it is fair game. Okay. Just letting you know that. Know all about the modernism questions on the outline. Anything involving modernism, know it. Okay. Know about Marxism and the writers and societies that promulgated it. What that means is the writers and groups that advocated Marxism. Okay. Then know about the 3 major thinkers who shaped the thought and even the literary criticism of the time. Now, really quickly, I'm going to go back and see if anybody had any questions. Okay, good. Nobody has any. I'll periodically check back here and see if anybody has any questions about anything I'm saying here. That way I can, answer them. From King Solomon's Mines. Know Quatermain's profession and why he goes on the expedition to Africa. What does Quatermain's identity crisis involve? Think of some ways Quatermain contradicts himself in the narrative, and know what becomes of Good and why he Actually, that's pretty badly worded on my part. And why Quatermain believes that happened. Okay. Again, these are almost like if you did the reading, you can kind of, especially any of you guys who are seniors who are who had to take like a major fields test. You know, this test is very much like a major fields test. If you haven't done the reading, these are things you're not going to be able to answer. Okay, now I do know that because you're outside of class, you're in front of your computer. Clearly, you're going to be able to use resources to answer these questions. I understand that. But what I am getting at is if you haven't done the reading, you're going to have to track down the answers. And that could take some time. And remember, you only have 2 hours to do this. It's not like writing a paper where I give you, 10 days. So from the article on King Solomon's Mines, and again, that's posted on Moodle too. Know what motivated Haggard to write the book. Haggard wrote basically 2 types of books. Know the 2 types that he wrote. What was his involvement with William Booth? Know essentially what Haggard said about what writers should not do when they write novels. There's probably one or 2 little snippets in the outline I gave you that talked about that. And finally, how a Freudian reading might apply to the novel. So in order to do that, you have to know what a Freudian reading consists of. Ruskin, The Stones of Venice. Again, this is posted on the Moodle. Know what Ruskin believes about the perfection in labor. Know the list of rules, and I even gave you where you can find it in section 17 of the reading that I posted on the Moodle. Know what Ruskin was actually getting at when he talked about mass-produced goods or division of labor. Know in section 21 what Ruskin says are mistaken thoughts that people have about labor. Okay, just checking back, seeing if anybody has any questions. All right, on to the importance of being earnest. Know about aestheticism and art for art's sake, and Wilde's biography. What I mean by that is basically know Wilde's background, and obviously aestheticism and arts for art's sake are 2 big parts of it. What does it mean to be a Bunburyist? What does Miss Prism believe the point of the 3-volume novel is, and in what context does she talk about it? Meaning, what makes her start to talk about the 3-volume novel? Know the relations of everyone in the story, meaning you need to know how they're related, how they're connected at the end of the story, what we learn basically. There's a subtle joke that occurs between Chasuble and Prism. Know about that. And what is the play on words in the title of the actual play itself? And if some of you look through this, there may be more than 35 to 40 points on here. I don't think there are. But what that means is I'm not going to go over 40 questions. So what that means is some of these may not end up on there. They may end up on the cutting room floor. Like, honestly, I could see this question maybe being removed. Okay, I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying if you're counting these out and it's over 40, I'm just telling you that it's not going to end up being over 40 questions. All right, so Heart of Darkness. Know Kurtz's last words and what Marlowe does with them. Know what Kurtz has annotated in the journal that disturbs Marlowe. What does Marlowe fear the most when he looks at the dying black man? What does the native man tell Marlowe about Kurtz when Marlowe asks about Kurtz? And finally, know what language Kurtz's journal is written in and what Marlowe initially thinks it is. Achebe's article on Heart of Darkness. Know the exact quote he uses to refer to Conrad, which I talk about in my lecture. And it's actually, if you read the article, it's there. What style of literary criticism does he suggest should be used on Conrad himself? He says that Conrad may actually condemn exploitation, but it is at the expense of a certain group. What group is it? He critiques the language of Conrad, suggesting that he inserts blank when Africans speak as a demonstration of racism. And he notes that Conrad was little more than a purveyor of blank. Okay, and then finally, Hunt Hawkins, Heart of Darkness article. He suggests that Conrad does justify imperialism, but on what basis? The problem Conrad had with colonists was that they inevitably became a certain thing. It wasn't necessarily that Conrad had a problem with colonialism. It was that the people who were doing it inevitably turned into something. Hawkins also believes that Conrad chose the Congo as a setting because there was a certain dynamic involved, not necessarily just that, he randomly picked it. Conrad's major underlying criticism of imperialism is that it does what? And know what Hawkins says about Conrad's views of imperialism. And again, if you're somebody who either can't find these articles, you can't access them, even if you maybe, are too put out to read them, most of this stuff is covered in my lectures. So if you can access the lectures, most of this stuff is answered in the lectures. So basically that's the review. Like I said, it's posted on Moodle. I will have the exam posted, and like I said, it will open up at 12:55 p.m. on April 30th, the day of the exam, and it will close at 3. So you'll have a little more than 2 hours to take it. It shouldn't take you 2 hours, especially if you're going back and you're actually going to look at the review here. I mean, the review basically, it's pretty specific. I mean, if you know probably 80% of the stuff on here, you're going to do fine on it. If you know all of it pretty well, then and some of you may already know it pretty well, then you're going to do fine. Again, there's not going to be anything tricky on there. It's only going to be a little bit longer than the usual midterm exam I give, because during your midterm, you guys only have like 50 minutes to take it. The reason it's longer is because you have more time. You also are going to be doing it on a computer and not having to write. And the other reason is because almost everything that you would need to answer these questions, you could go back and look at my lectures instead of having to actually try to remember it if it was covered in class. I mean, basically, unlike when we're meeting face to face, most of you don't sit there and tape my lectures. I wouldn't expect you to do that. Now you don't have to worry about that. You have access to basically everything on here was covered in a lecture. So what I'm getting at is, if you read something, like some people, for example, will use the excuse with me that they don't understand something they're reading. Like, for example, okay, well, I read Achebe's article, I don't understand it. Well, if you don't understand it, the reason that we have class is because we can discuss what it is you don't understand. Well, now you have those lectures online. If you don't understand something you've read, go back and watch the lectures. They're there. That's what they're there for. Okay. So what I'm getting at is, again, I wouldn't treat the lectures as a substitute for reading, but I certainly think that, they can help you, especially if you're somebody who's behind the curve, meaning like, let's say you're somebody in class who, I haven't heard anything from, and you have been off the grid for 3 weeks. Then what I would do if you're back on the grid, I would look at the lectures. Because again, unless you've been keeping up with the reading on your own and you think you know it pretty well, I think the lectures will help you. I think the lectures will help you understand anything that you may not understand on your own reading this stuff. Okay. And again, that's about the best I can do. I don't think there's really any necessity in us doing a live stream on Friday. The reason I was going to do a live stream on Friday was to wrap everything up, but I kind of feel like I did that prior to talking about the outline or the review, just because, like I said, I want to make sure people understand that, all of your teachers, it's not just me, all of them, we're all in a state of flux right now. None of us are exactly sure how all of this, grading and such is going to pan out at the end of the term. what I mean by that is, and again, I'm going to try to keep this short. Let's say you're a graduating senior, okay, and I haven't gotten any work from you since we went virtual. Okay, well, basically what I'm supposed to be doing is any sort of assignment that I gave that you didn't do becomes like an absence. Okay, if I technically, when I did the lectures online, everybody who was in the room, I knew who was in the room. They got credit for being in class. Okay, people who weren't in there didn't get credit for being in class. Okay, so where I'm going with this is this: if you're somebody who was having connectivity or accessibility issues, you really shouldn't have waited until like this week to tell me that, because the point is I already did the attendance up until this point. So if you hadn't done any of those things, then your attendance and participation is a 0. Okay, and again, that's one of those things where I can only speculate about why you're not either attending, the streaming lectures, about why you're not doing the work. And my first inclination is to think maybe you've just phoned it in, meaning like maybe you're just not going to do the work. That's typically what it is. And again, one of the things that makes this so challenging is if you don't, because some people are going to say this, well, if I didn't have accessibility to the internet, how was I supposed to contact you? Well, I understand that also. And that's why I'm saying I'm going to have to go back and deliberate once I do final grades. But here's one thing too, that I said since about the 23rd of March or whenever we started back up. If you have a smartphone, you can access your email. I mean, even through even if you don't have wireless or anything, I mean, you can use a 4G to access your email. If you had done that, you would have seen you can actually call my office phone and leave a message. I mean, if you have a cell phone, and everyone, I mean, just about everyone does, you could have called my office phone, and my office, and I told you all this, the messages get forwarded to my email. So it's not like you had to worry about me being in my office to answer the phone for you to tell me, hey, I can't do this stuff. I mean, the point is I tried to open up every possible avenue for you all to communicate with me, to let me know if there was some sort of issue. And again, I'm just speaking for most teachers here. When people wait until the very last minute to tell you that there's a problem, it tends to kind of look a lot of times like you were just putting stuff off until the last minute. And now that the proverbial doo-doo has hit the fan, you come to me or other teachers and say, well, I was having a problem. I'm not saying you're being dishonest. I'm saying that's how it looks. Okay. As somebody who's done this for 17 years, that's how it looks. Especially given, again, all you would have to have done was drop me an email or call my office and say, I can't access stuff, or I don't have a reliable internet connection. I'm having trouble doing a paper because I would have to type it on my phone. Okay. But what I'm getting at is if you never emailed me that stuff and you never informed me of that, then what am I supposed to do? You paint me into a corner where there's not a whole lot I can do to help you when you come to me at the 11th hour and tell me you've been having a problem. So again, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to deliberate over everything once all the work has been turned in and figure out the best possible course of action as to what to do, because then I will have sort of an idea about how the overall class did. Was everybody able to take the final exam? Was it the usual suspects who were able to actually take it? Like the people I know who attend just about every streaming lecture that I do. If there are people who are unable to take it, why were they unable to take it? I will do my best to reach out to those people if that happens. And if I don't get a response, what I'm telling you is I'm going to have to give you a grade. And if you didn't turn something in, that grade's going to have to be a 0. Again, particularly if you're like a graduating senior, I've got to have your grades in. In fact, now that I think about it, I may actually have to give, I need to find out when I need to turn in senior grades. I have to find that one out because I'm actually thinking that's like Tuesday of exam week. If that's the case, then I need to email the graduating seniors in the class and figure out what to do about giving them an exam, because it's going to have to be a different exam. I can't give the same exam. I can't give the same exam to, people who are going to take it a week ahead of everyone else. That's just ridiculous, because you could just screenshot it and, send texts to people. I mean, then, there'd be no point. So let me also, that's one thing I will find out about just to make sure, because I do believe we have some graduating seniors in this class. And again, I'm doing everything I can not to fail people. I think you guys who've had me before and who know me know that's not really what my goal is. But like I said before, at the same time, this is a brand new scenario for everybody involved, you guys and me and everybody doing it. And I am somebody who has been burned before by not following protocol. I got burned by giving incompletes to people who gave me sob stories instead of giving me documentation. And what I want to say is I don't know exactly what the university is requiring now during this scenario as being valid documentation, or if, you taking a U is just a reasonable, way to resolve that. I don't know. That's where I'm going with this. I don't know what the university has in mind about that. And the reason I'm stressing that point is because they're probably more open-minded to giving incompletes. But if you're a graduating senior, I mean, does an incomplete necessarily help you? I don't know. If you're somebody, again, who, hasn't done anything since we've gotten back, I mean, again, what am I supposed to do to justify giving you a passing grade to the administration? Because they're gonna look at that stuff. They're gonna want to know why I did that. And like I said, as somebody who's been burned before doing that, I just need to make sure I'm following whatever direction it is they're giving, because me trying to be kind in the past to people who weren't really going by the guidelines of what the university was saying caused me to put my head on the chopping block. And I really don't want to go through that again. I do think that there's probably more latitude for things like giving incompletes or overlooking maybe attendance issues. I'm telling you, I don't know. It may come down to personal judgment even. Okay, I don't know. We have an English department meeting tomorrow, and maybe I will do my best to voice some of these concerns that I have at the meeting. Of course, not really at the meeting, but virtually, because these are things that I can't answer, unfortunately. I'm not a policymaker. And that's what I'm trying to let you all know is, until I turn in your grades, don't look at Moodle and let that concern you too much. Okay, is my point, because I may have to go back in there and do some doctoring of things. I just don't know. Okay, so again, I just ask you to be patient. Don't jump the gun and blow up at me. If you look at Moodle and see that your grade is not what you want it to be, because that's not a guarantee that that's what your grade, what grade I'm going to turn in for you is. Okay. If after I turn in your grade, you have a complaint, then okay, that's the time to complain. But until I do that, please just hold off on doing that. I mean, I think I speak for all your teachers when I say we're all, pretty stressed with all this. It's a lot of work. It's more work than teaching face to face. And for those of you who aren't graduating, from what I understand, it looks like we may be going online through the fall too. Again, I'm not telling you that's the case. I said I've heard rumors that that's the case. So you may need to be prepared for more of this. Again, this is uncharted territory for all of us. So I don't want any of you guys thinking, well, boy, Dr. Rootsher is being pardon my language, a hard ass on us. Given that, maybe we didn't have internet accessibility. Again, I don't know how these things are supposed to be handled. I don't even know that there is a policy in place. Again, it may come down to the individual teacher. I don't know. So between now and next week, hopefully I find some answers. And again, if you are a graduating senior, what I will do is I will find out what date I need to have your grades turned in, and I will make the adjustment accordingly based on what sort of test I will give you. It would still cover the same material. It may just cover it differently. So still use that review sheet, but the test would obviously be different. Okay. I mean, I like I said, internet, it went out there and it says that it's unstable. So I'm going to end because I think I'm just kind of rambling here. What I'm basically trying to get at is just trust me to do the right thing. Trust me to do the thing that's not going to hurt you academically. Okay. I mean, that again, I think you all know that's not how I am. Study, look over the sheet. For those of you who are graduating seniors, I will send out an email when I find out about what exactly is the the protocol for turning in the graduating seniors grades, and I will get you an amended schedule and let you know what you need to do and when, so that you can get your grade in by when it needs to be turned in, so that you can be set to graduate. Okay, so on that note, I hope you all are doing okay. I hope you haven't gone insane by being stuck in your houses. And let's just hope that all this stuff comes to an end sooner rather than later. And we can all get back to some sort of normal, normalcy in our lives. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please contact me. If you are a graduating senior and you are, you can email me and save me some time. That would be great. But otherwise, take care of yourselves, study, and I will be in communication with all of you between now and the exam for sure. But graduating seniors particularly, I will get on the ball and see what I need to find out for you all. Okay? So be good. Take care of yourselves. And again, I'll be in touch with you all.